Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you for watching. In this chapter, we reflect on the logic of the 23rd code of the Quran. The Quran has 29 cryptic codes. They are known as Muqatta'at. These mysterious letter combinations consist of 1 to 5 letters, are arranged in 14 patterns, and employ only 14 of the 28 Arabic letters. However, despite the fact that 28 of the 29 mysterious codes of the Quran are in the first verse of their respective chapters, the 23rd code is in the first 2 verses of its respective chapter. Is this by design or by chance? This is something we are going to explore in this discussion, inshallah. And here we have the 23rd code here, Ham Mim Ain Sin Qaf. But we also have highlighted the 5th code. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5th code with green, and the 14th code with blue, because they are used in this work. It's good to have an idea where they are. In the first chapter of the Muqatta'at mathematical structure, we proved that the 29 codes are not randomly distributed. They are not random. The 4 groups of G1, G2, and G3, and G4, which are here, G1, G2, G3, and G4, are consistent with the Quran. And the mathematical structure is objective and verifiable. When you go to Quran, you can see it. You can follow it. You can use this as a blueprint. In this work, we investigate the logic of the 23rd code in the light of this well-proven mathematical structure. So this is going to be our foundation that we're going to build on. The Quran claims that if mankind and the jinn gathered in order to produce the like of this Quran, they could not produce the like of it, even if they were to be each other's assistant. This deep and poetic mathematical structure demonstrates why it is true. And here we have a mathematical structure that's built on the foundation of this mathematical structure. So this is going to prove that this verse is true. Of course, we reflect on this verse, inshallah, in the next chapter as well, but this is what this is going to prove. The 23rd code is at the midpoint of the 9 codes of the G3, in the first two verses of chapter 42. So this is G3. It has 9 coded chapters here, and the 23rd code is in chapter 42. And you can see that there are 4 coded chapters are to the left of it, and 4 coded chapters to the right of it. We have enlarged this one. Over here, we have chapter 42. There are 4 coded chapters here and 4 coded chapters here. The first 3 groups each have 9 coded chapters and are almost identical. Now here is the first group. There are 9 coded chapters here, 9 coded chapters here, 9 coded chapters here, and they are almost identical. You can see that here we have 7 consecutive chapters, coded chapters. On group 2 we have another 7 consecutive coded chapters and 6 consecutive coded chapters. So here you can see a small variation here. And then when we go here, we can see there are 2 coded chapters in the beginning of the group, 2 coded chapters in the beginning of the group, and 2 coded chapters in the beginning of the group. So they are basically and almost identical, the same thing, the same structure. And over here, beginning with the 23rd code, which is in chapter 42. Here is the 23rd code, is in chapter 42, and it has 53 verses. Now, and this is the midpoint of G3. Now here we have another midpoint, the midpoint of G2, which is chapter 28. Here. It has 88 verses, and the code is the 14th code. This one is 23rd, and this is the 14th code. We saw that already. And we come over here. This is the midpoint of the group 1, and the group 1 midpoint is chapter 11 here. It has 123 verses, and the code is the 5th code. So we have 5th code, 14th code, and 13th code. And then we have 53 verses, 88 verses, 123 verses. And here we have 11th chapter, 28th chapter, and 42 chapters. The Quran transcends our reality. It's at a very high level. And right now you can see why. We think this reality is really real. It's not. The first 3 verses of chapter 69 reflect on that. What is the true reality? The Quran covers our reality and beyond that. It transcends. Now here you're going to see how beautiful everything is here. Now, the best place to start is right over here, where the 23rd code is. And we begin with the 53 verses of this chapter. Now the reverse of the 53 is 35. It's the mirror image. And interestingly, in hexadecimal, 53 is 35. Of course, it doesn't have anything to do with this, but I just wanted to mention that's interesting. So we have 53 here, verses, and reverse of it is 35. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add 53 to 35. Now you see that when we add 35 to 53, we get 88. And 88 is the number of verses of chapter 28, which is the midpoint of the second group. Now we're going to add 35 to 88. And now we add 35 to 88. You notice that now we're getting the number of verses of chapter 11, which is the midpoint of the first group. Allahu Akbar. Now here we have, if we subtract 88 from 123, we get 35. So between 88 and 123, there are 35 verses. And we have exactly the same number of verses between chapter, the 53 verses and the 88 verses. And basically, over here we have the midpoint of the midpoint, because every one of these three, 11 is a midpoint itself. 28 is a midpoint itself here. And 42 is a midpoint itself. So these are the midpoint, but these midpoints have their own midpoints. And among these midpoints, this is the main midpoint point, very significant. And when you add these three numbers, 53 plus 88 plus 123, we're getting 88 plus 88 plus 88, which is basically telling us the three midpoints of larger structure, which are these three, have their own midpoint, which is 88. Now we're going to go to the code indexes. Here, the code index is 5, the fifth code. Here, the code index is 14, which is the 14th code. And here, the code index is 23. That is the 23rd code. And we're going to add them together. And this is our second row. So in the first row, we saw what we saw. And over here, we're going to see what we see. And now when you add these numbers, 5 plus 14 and 23, you're going to get 42, which is the chapter number of the 23rd code. Which is one of the reasons the 23rd code is in chapter 42. It's one of the reasons why 23rd code is in chapter 42. Now we're going to the third part. Row. And we're going to add these three numbers now. So we took care of these numbers at the top. Then we saw these produce the chapter number for the 23rd code. And now we're adding these three chapters, 11, 28, and 42. And you're going to see that now we have, when we add these, we have 11 plus 28 plus 42, which is giving us 81. And what is 81? 81 is the numerical value of the 23rd code. So in the previous one, we had its chapter number. Now we get the numerical value of the 23rd code itself. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala tells us that it's we who sent down the Quran, and indeed we will be its guardian. The same way Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala works in ways that the Arabic letters were developed in a way that worked with the Quran. And over here, we have given the value of these Arabic letters here, the 6 here, 24 here, 18 here, 12 here, and 21 for Qaf. And when we add this, they add up to 81, which is the numerical value of the code. And is exactly what we had when we added the chapter numbers. Inshallah, in next chapter, which would be chapter 4 of the Muqatta'at, we're going to build on what we have over here. And inshallah, we're going to move forward. It is exactly what the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. Mankind and the jinn, if they come together, they cannot make anything like the Quran. Thank you for watching, and God bless you and your family and everyone around you and us, inshallah.